Hi, I am Jeannie Stevens, and I'm here with two of my new besties.
Totes.
Totes, all the way totes.
For sure.
The lovely Annie and the lovely Joy. And we have a really fun topic that we have over the next few moments to talk about. And I actually was thinking about this a lot yesterday. And so I'm going to make it a little interesting.
Oh, we like
So
that.
while we were sitting in the sessions yesterday, I noticed a lot of references to and my husband and my babies, all you mamas out there. And my heart started to feel very tender to the women in the room that are single. And I wonder, for the two of you, because I know that's your season of life right now, I wonder, what does it feel like to you when you hear those references?
Yeah, I think for me, I won't speak for you, for me, that has always been the way it is. And so there are times when it's bristling and times when it's not. Times when you expect to be recognized as a people group. When you aren't, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But it also sometimes just gets to like, they're not going to talk about singleness. That's not what, even though you don't know the demographic of the crowd, you don't know.
Right.
But so yesterday when that happened, I just kind of went, it's okay. They don't. There's a lot of, I rationalize it. There's a lot of moms in here who need to hear this, and we cannot expect them to not talk about momdom any more than we can expect them to talk about singleness. So it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
No, I think because you and I work primarily with that demographic of our peers, and many of them are single, I think you and I, we feel what we feel, and then we process because we know there's a lot of people that are feeling and then being reactive, and so we're wanting to counter that. And I think that has been something that's kind of been disheartening for me in the church, is when I do feel like there's a bitterness that creeps up out of the season of life that we're in, whether it's people who are single or whether there's people who are married and feel trapped. Or so I always just like want to become aware of when I'm feeling like, oh, am I being left out? Like, what's that breeding in me? Because I do think it's causing this almost separatism in the church. And I don't know, being a pastor, what you have seen, but I have found myself wanting to minister to singles, but then also being like, I just feel like the church is really stuck because if they make a singles group, then there's a lot of people who are like, we don't want to be singled out. We just need to do life together and everything. But then there's many people who are then, when the sermon is on marriage or parenting, then there's a sensitivity to that and they feel left out. So it's, I sometimes do wonder what the church is supposed to do.
What do you feel like are some of the assumptions, and maybe even false assumptions, that you feel in the church towards singles? I know that sometimes some of the singles in our church will say one of the assumptions that they struggle with is that they have all the time in the world to give. And so, they should be the ones that are giving, 20 hours a week of volunteering, and they have all the time in the world. Why should they have boundaries? Why should they have a healthy rhythm of life? I mean, you don't have all the same responsibilities as a married woman with kids, and that my single friends, they have given me a great gift in saying, Jeannie, don't ever assume that of me, because I'm trying to live as equally healthy as you are. And so no, I don't actually have all of the time in the world. So I'm curious, are there any like assumptions that you feel like the church has kind of laid over singles that has been maybe painful or hurtful or sharp or coarse at times, maybe even unintentionally?
And that's the unintentionally is the thing that I think gets people into a lot of hurt or woundedness by the church, is that they because they have these open wounds, maybe they want to be married, and there's something that's said or something that's done, and there's this like, sometimes we don't step back, and I don't go, oh, well, that person was actually trying to encourage me, or they were trying to do something, but because this is an area of sensitivity for me, I interpreted that as they were being insensitive. But even with the volunteering and different things like that, like I'm on sabbatical right now, and I cannot say that without giving a disclaimer of being like, I know I'm not an old professor, or I know I don't, and I had one friend literally like, I hadn't even said something specifically to her about my complex, but she called me and was just like, I want you to know that just because you're single and you don't have children, like, you deserve this, and
Yes.
don't feel guilty about it. And this
It's
is
so
a
good, Joy.
good rhythm of life. And I just, to have a married woman say that to me, because I like when most of my girlfriends have kids that are like hanging off of them, and that is like, I just see how tired they are, and I'm like, and I am like getting to take a sabbatical. Like, I feel guilty
You
about
had that induced guilt
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah.
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 I would also say that I think there are times that married people assume, oh, they don't want to be around our kids.
Yeah.
I would invite her over to eat, but she doesn't want to be around. I mean, the baby's
Yeah.
crying, or I haven't cleaned up the house, or
Right.
she and I will just want to go get a glass of wine later. She won't want to come over and hang with
Yeah.
the family. When a lot of times, I mean, what we don't have is a family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? What we don't, I mean, we have families.
course,
blah,
of
blah, blah.
course, but
But
yeah.
what we don't have is a
That
family.
nuclear, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Mhm.
And so when we're in, and it gets tiring to always be the, hey, can I come eat? Hey, can I come hang out? Hey, what
Yeah.
are y'all up to? But I think that's something that the church forgets to teach married people, like, invite the singles over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I read a singles book one time that said, if you have single friends, you should ask them if they want to be set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because you know people.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there's always this like agency thing of
Yeah.
are you stepping into this with them to any degree?
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I've gone through seasons where I don't want to be set up. Seasons
Yeah.
where I'm like,
Right.
That's key,
leave it
is
alone.
asking
And that's
Yeah,
key,
you
the
gotta
ask,
know.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a part of the body of Christ. What a gift we can bring to one another, whether you're
Yeah.
single, married,
Right.
whatever season of life you're in, to ask, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the more we assume on somebody else, or the more we just say, well, this must be their expectation, and so I'm going to meet it for them without asking, we develop and we grow these codependent kind of relationships that are really
Yeah.
utterly unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
But to say to another human being, my sisters, and say, Annie, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
Right.
That's such an emboldening question.
Yeah.
Right.
And for you to come back and say,
And
Jeannie,
the choice is, can you be
what
honest
do you-
and say what
do
you need?
from me?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Because
to say, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure. Invite me over for dinner. Yeah.
Right.
Those things.
I think that is one of the challenges that I found as we get older in our singleness, is there's sometimes, especially with Christians who have desired marriage and they're praying for it, that they all of a sudden get to this point where they think, well, maybe this is not going to happen for me, so I'm going to stop making my requests known, whether it's to God or to other people,
right.
because they don't want to set themselves up for not being able to believe in God's promises anymore.
Right.
And so then they just start telling themselves, maybe I was given the gift of singleness, or dating in general is scary to them, and so they say no. And I'm always like, even if it's a bad date,
Right.
Go on
it is a funny story.
Right.
Right.
Get
Well,
it
you
under
know,
your belt.
like
Do it. Yeah.
there needs to be a levity that is brought to this area that
Yes.
is a little bit sensitive. And so even for then married people that are like, well, why don't you just go on online dating? I always say, like, do it with them. Because
Yeah.
it can be, you have to bring lightness. You cannot do it alone. It can be
Right.
a really like, it's just an
Oh,
overwhelming
right.
thing. So it's
and
easy.
like, is that
Yeah.
my husband?
Yeah.
Is that my husband?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
not this like, go on dates.
Yeah.
That guy's, I bet if we were in the same small group, I would think he was weird maybe, but I'd go on a
Yeah.
date with him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but then you see him on eHarmony, you're like, ugh, I can't. Nope.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need
No.
people that are with
I
you.
also think it's something that I mean, what Joy is saying is so rings true with me, because I've had seasons where, and she and I have talked about this, where I've gone, you know what, I can't ask God what this means that he's not changing this. So instead of feeling it, I'm just going to close the door of that part of my heart. And not even intentionally necessarily, but going like, we can talk about 99 problems, but we're not talking about this one.
Yeah.
Because so I'm not going to talk to my friends about it. I'm not going to talk to my mentor about it. I'm going to act like I don't feel anything, because then I cannot ask these big questions of God that
Yeah.
I don't know how to find the answers for.
And Annie, in those seasons, I'm guessing that you've had some people that have lovingly kind of like pushed that door open a little bit.
Oh,
with
for
you,
sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and said, okay, I know you're giving me all of the signals to not come through,
Right.
Yeah.
but what's really going on in
Yeah.
your heart? And I'm
And you
guessing
have
that
to.
they're both married and singles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to,
Yeah.
because in the end, and this is, again, something Joy and I have talked about, in the end, we have to recognize that whatever life you have today is what I say, it's the good life.
Yeah.
This is the good life. And so what does it look like to live like this is the good life? And that is the question that it is. Maybe, I don't know, I've never been married, so I shouldn't even say this, but I'm going to do it because that may be harder for singles than any other group, because maybe everybody wants something and everybody can say it, but it is really hard to go, oh, this is the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if this is the best,
Yeah.
then what?
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But I'm never hugged. You know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
trying to like because we can't, and I do think that's where the like neutral thing that you were kind of, I'm not going
Yeah.
to feel anything, comes from the place of like we were saying, not wanting to discount God being real, and we've been asking for so long. But I do feel like I see this pendulum swing a bit to now where. Because churches have maybe tried to talk about marriage and relationships so much, and singles have gotten sensitive to that, that then there is this thing like, you know, life doesn't begin when you get married, and
Yes.
which is true, which is so true, but it needs to be this balance of like, I think we can idolize singleness now as another part of that self-preservation. So it's got to be this both and of like, I'm not supposed to wait for life to begin
Yes.
Right.
until I get married. Simultaneously, I'm still called to make my requests known to God, but people are denying themselves that that's
Right.
a desire. Some
Right.
people truly
Right.
are, but I just hear a lot of single people being like, I've been given the gift of singleness, or this just might not happen to me. And I just, and then they stop being set up, or they stop
Right.
trying
Right.
because they're discouraged. And
Yeah.
I just say, look at the end of your
Yes.
life. Like if you really are okay with like not having tried a relationship, because that's a safer place to be.
Yeah.
Even though that doesn't mean if just because we let ourselves get set up
Yeah.
that we're going to get married. We're not
Right.
promised
And
that.
the only way that we grow, and the only way that we change and ultimately transform, have a Romans 12:1. You know, the transformation, the
read that
renewing
in the
of our
Message?
mind. Yes, it's fantastic. Your
Oh,
everyday,
my
ordinary
gosh.
life, right?
Yes.
And so you have to try at it.
Yes.
Everybody.
Wait,
It's that
say,
married,
yeah, 'cause
single.
I'm
The
not
be-
as spiritual
I don't
as
know
you
the
guys.
first half. Well, I mean, I literally, I'm not kidding you, Jenny. I just taught that verse when I talked to singles because the end of it says, embracing the life that God has given you is the best thing you can do for Him.
Yep.
And I just thought, that is it.
That is it.
And the start of it is like, take your everyday, ordinary life and
life,
offer
yep.
it, give it as an offering to God.
Yeah.
And then embrace what He's given you as the best. And the best thing you can do for Him is embracing what He's given you. And I just thought, that is it.
Yeah.
That is it. And
What do you wish the church would do when it comes to singles? How do you
find me a husband.
Amen.
Dear my pastor in Nashville.
Here we go.
How many times do I have to say this to you? No, I'm just kidding.
No, but how can the church do a better job of engaging in this season of life, engaging in the conversation, not just programming series about, you know,
Yeah.
how to save your marriage or how to have a good marriage? What would you, if you were in charge, what would you do?
Can I go?
Yeah. You can go.
Well, so
me to.
I, for a while, thought that I had a very clear idea of what the church needed to do, and that was to like get rid of singles groups, because I was just like, that's, you know, it's just weird. And but then I would start talking to churches, and there are definitely church cultures where the people in the church want a singles group. And so I think there's different cultures to different churches, and I think the most important thing is that leadership, especially if they're all married, are having conversations with people who are unmarried. But like, I just think kind of in the American church culture, we have separated ourselves into life stages and ages, small groups. Like there's so much separation. Children are never in the main sanctuary because they make noise. And I just, sometimes when I look at scripture, I just feel like we've segregated ourselves. And Titus talks about the old learning from the young, but then, you know, Paul tells Timothy to go out and teach and not be ashamed because he's young. So I'm like, we're all supposed to be learning from each other. So I don't know what exactly each specific church should do, but I think more integration just in
Yeah,
everyday
when you
life.
read in Acts 2 and it says they had everything in common with one
Right.
another, you know, and I think
Right.
they certainly did not have a children's ministry. They
Oh,
certainly
right.
didn't, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
it was just, when I picture Solomon's porch where they would go and they would hear the apostles teaching, I just
Yeah.
picture it all kind of messy and happening
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to hear you say that,
Yeah.
to hear that that is the desire of your heart, of a single. What about you, Annie?
Yeah, I mean, I connect with a lot of what she's saying. I mean, I also really think there's this place we've got to make a space. I don't know what this looks like. We've got to make a space for people of all spots in life to honestly say what they're missing and what they feel like they don't have, and what, I mean, that's what that's what happened in Acts 2 is that they shared everything.
Yeah.
Their physical needs. They sold everything, and then everyone who was in need got what they needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And so I just wonder if there's a space for families who, husband and wives who are trying to have kids can honestly say, will y'all pray for us?
I want
Yeah.
this.
And singles who are
Yeah.
wanting to be married can honestly say and not sound desperate
Yeah.
and not sound sad, because it's not sad. I'm not sad.
Yeah.
I'm not desperate or sad. I have
Yeah.
a really great life.
Yeah.
But I want a space
Yes,
in my church
yes,
to say, I feel like something is missing that that I want in my life.
Yeah.
Will you pray and can you help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we walk with one another on the journey of desire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have desires, every
Yeah.
single one of
Right.
us. And so, will you walk with me in
Yeah.
this desire?
Yeah.
You guys are extraordinary. You are both
you're kind.
extraordinary women. You are. You are
Thank you.
wise and brilliant and articulate, honest, beautiful, inside and out. And thank you for being so honest about your personal journey and your story right now. I learned a lot from both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
thinking
Yeah.
about us yesterday
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
you were
that's
in the
kind.
sessions. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it was fun to connect, the three of us. Thanks for joining in, and hopefully this was an enjoyable conversation for you to be a part of.